This is Unspoiled Special Edition, covering Stranger Things, Episode 2, The Weirdo on Maple Street. In this episode, I forgot how this episode ended. Welcome to Unspoiled Special Edition.
Yeah, I was definitely not expecting that ending.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. This is that's one of the more, this was super confusing to me. What was your interpretation of this? How did you feel about it?
What, about Barb getting snatched?
Yeah.
I don't know. I really was not expecting it. It reminded me very clearly of what happened to the scientist in the first episode, where it was like it comes down from above and it snatches her, but there's no blood.
Yep.
Right? I mean, there is blood. There's already blood because she's already bleeding.
Yeah.
So that was kind of an interesting detail that they showed her blood dripping into the water, that somehow. I don't know whether that was supposed to symbolize or indicate that there was any tie between those things. This thing can smell blood, because that didn't seem to be an issue with Will.
Right.
Right.
As far as we know, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Kind of was weirded out by Will's big brother being a total voyeuristic creeper. I know that's not what you started out doing, man, but move along.
Yeah, Owen was watching this with me and was just like, what are you even doing? And then when he looks down and Barb gets taken, he looks up and Owen's like, well, thanks for being completely fucking useless. He was so annoyed.
Yeah, it's like Brienne spends an entire season staring out a window looking for a candle, and then the one right when the candle gets lit, she's like, wait, I'm distracted by Stannis, I'm gonna go, and you're like, no! This whole season you did nothing. Pointless, useless, you're no help. So Jonathan, you're
one job,
no help. Yeah, oh, my lens got stuck. I'm like,
yeah, the thing about Barb being taken, comparing it to the scientist, is that, or even Will, even though with Will, you know that he's in this little shed that doesn't have a second floor. The scientist, in the initial episode, assumed that it was something that was in the ceiling that grabbed him and pulled him up into the elevator shaft.
Right, and there's nothing above Barb to do that.
Right.
Also, there's the scene where where the scientists go into the shack, and don't they see something oozing?
They see some slime, and I'm wondering if that's what the cop saw. You know how Hopper goes in there and he's got his flashlight under the table and is kind of seeming distracted before somebody startles him.
Right.
And I think that maybe he kind of saw that and just didn't quite see the relevance of it, but just was like, that's weird, Right,
so it's kind of how can slime come out of midair?
Exactly.
And make her, yeah. So, again, I don't know.
I don't know.
I got nothing.
Yeah, I can't tell you. I have no idea. It's so weird.
The worst. Yeah, so we'll find out, but poor Barb.
Oh, I know. This is, again, I've seen some people kind of describe Nancy's storyline as cliched, and I'm to a degree that's true, but I feel like what's going on with her and Barb feels so real.
Oh, yeah.
It just doesn't have that, there are a lot of movies and shows where they have this kind of thing happen, and you want to shake and slap the girl who is Nancy.
Yeah.
And in this, I just understood so much better. I wasn't nearly as frustrated with her as I have been with other characters like her. Right. If you get what I mean.
Right. I'm still sort of just why did you even have her come? you knew, A, you knew she was going to be miserable. B, you knew basically that this is what you wanted to do anyway. So to put her in the position of having to just be the nag is a crummy thing to do to your friend. But at the same time, like, you know, we all knew going in that this was going to happen. She got a new bra.
Yep. Well, I think it's to give herself an easy out if she doesn't, if things don't go the way that she wants them to go, which is a really selfish thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's
understandable.
Yeah. But. You know, it's, so I guess that's what it is. It's like, as much as I'm just like agreeing with you, why did you even have her come? Putting myself in her shoes, I totally get it.
Right.
I can't even say that I wouldn't have done the same thing, you know?
Right. And I like the sort of visual, like, obvious symbolism of having her change clothes in the car. Like, you see her actually at the moment of being like, yep, this is me. I'm changing. Bye-bye sweater set. I'm going to be in my striped shirt and hoodie. And I was like, that's so cute. I would totally wear that. And oh god, the John Ralphio hair.
Oh my god,
the John Ralphio hair makes an appearance. So good. He showed up on screen, and I'm like, oh my god, it's like half Flock of Seagulls, half John Ralphio, and I can't take it. It's too good.
He's like, somebody was ordering porno on the TV, like so much porno. Like, how could anybody watch that much porno? But
yeah, I liked it's been a long time since I've heard Hazy Shade of Winter, so I was kind of like, yeah, I like this song. I'll go listen to the Bangles now, even though it's not from the right time period. But
I was going to say, I feel like somebody said that the song is actually came out like a couple days or a couple of years later. Yeah,
did. I've read a little bit of complaint about some of the music being off, and I think the way that the producers have apparently explained it is there's a difference between diegetic and non-diegetic music, meaning like music that's actually playing from like a stereo in the show as opposed to something in the background. So they weren't being super careful about pop songs they use just as part of the soundtrack.
Gotcha.
Because they were like, this sort of fits the overall era, and it doesn't have to be specific. Like, you don't have to be like, well, this wasn't out in 1983. The one thing that is sort of off, they the scene where they're sitting and listening to the stereo when they're listening to The Clash, Jonathan and Will, and he says something about, here's my mixtape, it's got all the best stuff on it, it's got, I think he says Joy Division and Television and Bowie, and then he says the Smiths, and a bunch of people have been complaining about that on the AV Club review of this episode, because they're like, in 1983 the Smiths weren't even, and I'm like, okay, guys. Yep, you're correct.
Focus
There's
on
no
the right
way
stuff,
this
guys.
kid had like found some like vinyl single of this charming man that happened to come out in 1983, and everything else didn't come out until 1984. Okay, that's fine. We get it. He's not that cool to be able to have found out about the Smiths yet, but it's okay. They're trying.
He's just the ultimate hipster.
Yeah, he's really on top of things.
Yep.
You can tell from this kid. He's super on top of things. But maybe that is one thing he's really good at, is music. I also saw somebody complain about how those bands don't quite go together, and they're like the idea of modern hipsters' idea of what people in 1983 would have been listening to. And I'm like, well, I wasn't a college radio listener in 1983, so I can't speak to it, but I like all those bands and all those musicians at the same time, so I don't think that there's anything stylistically about like saying, well, you wouldn't listen to Bowie and Television. I'm like, I do.
Yeah, I hate that kind of thing. It's just like, I listen to fucking water music and then Missy Elliott, you know, like there's no sense to anybody's musical taste. So just stop trying to...
Those are close enough that you don't have to be like, well, one of them is glam rock and one of them is post-punk. And I'm like, oh my God, shut up.
Right?
Shut up. That's the dumbest thing. Stop. No.
Besides, we all know that the best rock song of all time is Kokomo.
Yeah, because Uncle Jesse plays drums on that one.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
I know.
Oh,
He
how
toured with
weird.
them.
Weird.
Stamos toured with the Beach Boys. That's one of my favorite weird 80s factoids.
Everybody knows.
Yeah. When John Stamos was briefly a Beach Boy.
He was so pretty. What's he doing anyway?
He's still pretty. He's one of those people who, like, I don't know whether he has just a really good plastic surgeon or a deal with the devil or a painting in his attic or what it is, but, like, he does not age. It's creepy. The people who don't age creep me out.
Yeah, no, I hear that.
Keanu is finally starting to look a little bit older.
He's putting on aging makeup every morning
just to like tell people
suspicious.
To shut up.
Yep.
It's like, all right, I'm 53. I should really start making.
Gets a can of white hairspray out.
Yeah, he could be Matthew Modine. All of a sudden, his hair turns white.
So speaking of Matthew Modine, we have this moment of, because, you know, the phone call happened at the very end of the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, she calls the police and we see them listening to her conversation.
Yeah.
And they like come out in their white suits and start investigating things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's alarming that they're
that's
listening.
That's creepy
in.
that they're on top of it. Yeah, that they have. I would assume it's not just her phone they have bugged, because they say specifically they have to tell him who she is. Mm-hmm. Like, it's, I think, obviously the Department of Energy has a pretty large presence in this community. Mm-hmm. So they may just have everybody bugged. Mm-hmm. It's the government. Come on, sheeple.
Wake
this
up,
whole
sheeple.
thing, all it is MK Ultra. That's what this is.
Oh my god.
I finally figured it out. This is MK Ultra.
There was this amazing meme going around the past couple days that is theorizing that Pokemon Go is this elaborate information gathering technique from an enemy military that's like, and I can't imagine a more inefficient way to get your information, first of all. And secondly, it's based off of Google Maps. That's how they run the game. And I'm like, you literally can just look at Google Maps. Like, what are you talking about?
It's like, now they can track your every moment being Rattatas.
Right? And I'm just like, they could do that anyway.
They could totally do that anyway. At this point, you guys, they know everything. Just stop. Even it's too late.
This guy was talking about his friend who deleted the app because he felt like it violated privacy. And he was like, of course, when I told him that that's been happening and that they can track him always, even if he isn't even using GPS location stuff, and said the only way to get away from it was for him to, like, throw his phone in a lake, all of a sudden he decided it really wasn't that big a deal.
Right.
Because,
well, it's like that
God
episode
forbid.
It's like in Parks and Rec when Ron finds out about cookies and just throws his entire computer away.
I have not seen that.
You haven't seen that one? It's just like a cold open of one of the episodes where he's like, April, what are these things? What is it saying? And she's like, well, it's cookies. It keeps track of what you've done on your computer so that it can, like, autofill things later on. He's like, so this computer knows everything I've ever done? And she's like, yeah. And you just see him, like, carrying the computer, throwing it in the dumpster.
I forgot about that, yes.
I love the idea of somebody, like, going on Facebook and saying that they won't play Pokemon Go because it violates their privacy. I'm like, yeah, hi, welcome to Facebook. Come on. It's over. Yeah. We're well past that. Yeah. My husband freaked out when we were buying this house because I, like, emailed some form to the bank that had some of our personal information in it.
Okay.
And, like, right after I emailed it, it occurred to him, and we went, whoa. We didn't zip that or encrypt it or put a password on it or anything. And now if somebody was hacking the bank or hacking us, they could get our social security numbers. I'm like, they have our social security numbers, honey.
Yeah.
Everybody has our social security numbers. Just, it's so far past the point of being concerned about.
Right.
If they want my student loans, have at it. Enjoy my social security number. It's not going to do you much good. It's really not.
Yeah, I know. I always think that too. I'm like, yeah, if you want to hack me for my $11 that's left in my bank account, you go right ahead. You have fun with that.
Have fun with my crippling consumer debt.
Exactly. Go buy yourself a nice burger. But yeah, so they're listening in, and she is waiting for Hopper, the police chief, who apparently doesn't show up for 6 hours.
Yeah.
And she's really, really upset, trying to figure out how much copies are going to cost for them to put flyers out everywhere.
That was so sad.
Yeah. She's really starting to lose it.
Yeah.
And he tells her, because she's, where the fuck have you been? He says, we've been searching all night. How about a little trust here?
Uh-huh.
But then when she starts to explain to him about the phone, I mean, he sees this burnt and blackened phone and just is like, oh, the storm barbecued this pretty quick, huh? And she's like, okay, no. Like, does that make sense, though? Think about what you're saying. The storm barbecued my phone. Like, doesn't that seem just really weird?
Right.
And when she continues to say that she knows that it was Will's breathing, he tries to argue with her, and she says, first, how about some trust here?
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
It's definitely establishing that these two have at least some sort of personal relationship, which obviously the deputy refers to later when he's like, so those two have totally done it, right?
Yeah.
And, which clearly they totally have done it. Mm-hmm. But it's also like there's a certain amount of fondness between them. Like he clearly feels bad for her. He doesn't want to hurt her. Like this isn't necessarily a relationship that ended really badly. Mm-hmm. It's just something that isn't a thing anymore. Yeah. So I like that. But then she says the thing about, wouldn't you know your daughter's breathing? Mm-hmm. Oh,
right.
That because we didn't talk about that in the last episode. The fact that they mentioned that he had a daughter that died. Right?
Yes. And this is actually something that I missed the first time watching the first episode.
It's a real throwaway line.
Yeah. Like he's saying to that guy, oh, she lives with her mom in the city. And I don't know if I was so busy live commenting my watch or what, but I missed, oh, she died a few years back. Yeah. Totally missed it. But
and do you think Winona or Joyce knows the truth, or does she buy the story? Yeah, that was sort of my feeling, that it was a low blow.
Yeah.
To say that to him. And you can see him just like, he looks like he's been slapped for a second. That made me really sad. And it made me, kind of want to know more about his backstory. The idea that he hasn't really been in the town for all that long.
Right.
To be in the city. I don't know if they're going to go into his backstory or just sort of leave it like that there's just enough detail for you to be sort of interested in him as, not just a townie, somebody who has his own story. But it might just not be relevant to what's happening here. But, that made me feel bad.
I really, like, as much as it may be a low blow, it's obvious that she's right.
Yeah,
when she says that, he can't answer her because he knows for sure that he would be able to tell.
Yep.
So, yeah. I like the dialogue here a lot because people are saying things that are directly relevant and getting to the point. Mm-hmm. And instead of these weird parallel dimension conversations that people have on some shows where they never actually say the most important thing.
So like Daredevil.
Like, right, yeah. They're all talking around the issue, or Walking Dead is another one.
Yeah. Just talk to each other.
Exactly.
Tell each other the truth about what's going on. Yeah. Joyce seems like the sort of person who's always going to do that. This is not a woman who beats around the bush.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah. And you see it again in her scene when she goes to work to buy a new phone. And she's just like, I have never called out sick. I have never taken a vacation day. I work Christmas Eve. I work New Year's. I work Thanksgiving, or like whatever holidays it is she says. She's like, come on, my son is gone. Mm-hmm. And you understand that the guy's not trying to be a dick about it, but he is legitimately like, I only have so much money on hand. I do have to pay the guy who's working for you.
Right.
But he also can't argue with her and isn't going to be an asshole about it. And then for her to be, and because she just says, I need this phone and I need 2 weeks advance. And you see her say it with like, she takes this deep breath to say it, you know, of like, I need to say what I need, which is something that women in particular, I feel like don't do a lot. We kind of feel like we have to, they talk about it. I've seen it talked about a lot with like salary negotiations.
Yeah.
That, you know, at a job, a guy will go in and be like, this is what I require for this job. Whereas a woman will kind of be like, well, if this and that, and like we feel uncomfortable talking about money or asking for what we feel like we're actually worth. We sort of couch it. And I liked seeing her take a deep breath and say, no, this is what I need at this moment in my life. I like that. And then she was like, and a pack of camels.
That was the best.
Might as well give it a shot.
Just throw it on there, whatever.
Yeah. And like his look at her was pretty funny after that. Just like, ugh, really?
But, and this is like, I don't know if you saw that thing that was circulating a little while ago of the woman who had worked at this company for 6 years and she was graduating college or no, she was graduating college.
Oh, yeah, that advice column thing?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And this is the thing that, like, part of why I feel so ambivalent about getting a, quote, real job is that there is not that kind of value, like, people don't value their employees.
Right.
And they just are like, well, where else are you going to go? Is the sort of attitude a lot of the time, like holding people hostage. Right. But yeah, for those who didn't see it, there was this advice column where somebody wrote in the question they were asking was, how do I reach out to somebody who quit because I wouldn't let her go to her graduation? She didn't even want to take the whole day off. She just wanted to come in 2 hours later.
Right.
She didn't even ask for the day. And this person's like, and then she just quit on the spot, which I felt was really unprofessional. And she was a really good worker and she had never called in and she had never missed a day in 6 years. And I want to reach out and let her know that that was not an appropriate way to handle herself if she wants to get ahead in a professional setting.
Right.
And the person who received the question was like, 1, you're a douchebag. 2, never say that to her. 3, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Right.
And 4, within the question, they had also mentioned that they gave someone else a day off to go to a concert.
Oh my God, that part. That was the part that really set me off. When they were like, because that was a monetary expense that they'd already laid out, so I obviously had to let them go. I'm like, yeah, because college is not a monetary
college is wicked
expense.
Cheap.
Yeah, she didn't spend any money on a college education that she was getting at night while she was working, 6 years at your ridiculous job, whatever it is that calls people in on short notice for these random days. Like that was the thing too, is that it was just a random day. It's not like she was even asking for one of her regular days off. It was a random day that she got called in for, and she couldn't get anybody to switch days with her because everybody else she works with is an asshole and wouldn't, like, they trade with each other but not with her. And I'm like, oh, this poor girl having to work at this horrible place for this long. Like, yeah, I would have quit on the spot too.
Exactly.
If my boss, like, if I'd exhausted every avenue to try and get these hours covered and I just couldn't, and my boss was still like, well, meh.
Yeah.
I would be like, well, I got a college degree now, so bye.
Yeah, exactly, right. I have this is part of why I have jumped jobs so much, is that I have no tolerance for that kind of attitude from a boss. Like, if they act like that, I'm out. I just am. And I can't sit there and pretend to be 100% into, and that was one walkout that I did. There was this boss that I had that really, for some reason, and I'm like the boss favorite when I work places because I am fast and consistent and learn quickly and whatever. But this woman, for some reason, really didn't like me. And I didn't have that much experience with that, So I tried to just sort of ignore it or go with it or just be nice to her. And I wasn't really sure what it was. I still don't really know why. And I asked for some time off to go to this opera in New York. And she kept on like saying, well, I think I can get you the time off. I'm not positive. We'll have to make sure. I bought the tickets, which were like, $100 each. I made reservations for the room in New York, and then the schedule goes up and I'm scheduled.
Right.
And I was like, what? And I will never forget, she had the smuggest look on her face because she really obviously wanted to fuck me over. And so it just kind of strung me along until she could be like, well, I never promised. And I just went to New York and never went back to that job. That was how that worked out.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, people who are employers, like, I get that there are a lot of shitty employees out there. I see that end of it, too, from Owen, because he's basically a manager and has to deal with that.
Right.
But when you have good people, don't be a twat, because good people are hard to find.
Right. And, yeah, I've had some really great bosses in my life, and so I'm still friends with them because they're people who respected their employees and knew their employees, saw their employees as people, figured out the best way to motivate them as individuals. That was what I was always impressed with. Like one of my old bosses, this was a job I had in college. It was just a retail job. And the first couple of weeks, I just could not get my drawer right. Mm-hmm. It was just ridiculous. And it wasn't even that I was off on the money. I couldn't count the money right. So another manager would come over and count it and be like, no, you're on. Like, you're off by like 7 cents or something, but your money's right. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? I can't count bills in a drawer. I can't add up credit card slips. Like, this is insane. And, his first response was to sort of be like, you really need to get this together or we're not, it's not going to work out. And of course I start having like a panic attack. Right. And I come in the next day and I go to him and I'm like, should I just quit? Would that just be easier for everybody if I just quit? And you could see this light bulb go off in his head. Like, okay, that was the wrong move. This is not a person. This is a person who needs a carrot and not a stick, basically. Right. This is a person who needs positive motivation to get ahead, which is totally true. Mm-hmm. Like, if somebody's really hard on me, it's just going to make me do worse because I'm just going to have a panic attack about it. Same. But instead, like, he's like, nope, chill out. It's okay. We all really like you. Like, we want you to succeed. We want this to work out. So just don't quit.
Right.
Give it a couple days. And then that day, my pouch was on and he like did this super over the top, like, good job, Maggie. Like, literally patted me on the back. Like, it was just ridiculous. And then from then on, he realized like the best way to get Maggie to do a good job is to make sure she knows she's doing a good job, give her more responsibility rather than less, because it makes her feel like she's actually succeeding and productive. And I became, I basically ended up almost managing the store after he'd left. But this guy seems like he's sort of in between.
Yeah, it's like he almost gets it, but somebody has to straight up tell him. He doesn't figure it out on his own.
Right.
So when she points out, because she's worked there for 10 years and she's never called out, she should have a fucking medal.
That's insane.
That's insane.
At a retail job, that's insane.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
retail
a
job
very reliable employee, and even I have called out much more frequently than
she has
probably twice a year.
She has 2 kids. She's a single mom. I mean, her husband was there until relatively recently, but still, like, to never call out with 2 kids is pretty much unfathomable to me. Like, like, if one of them gets strep throat, was she just like, all right, bye, and like left them in the house alone?
I'm guessing...
It was the 80s. You could kind of do that.
Yeah, I'm like, I think that she just, like, left one of the brothers to care for the other.
Yeah, exactly. They're far enough apart in age that I can see that happening.
And speaking of her husband...
Oh, yeah, we get to meet him.
Yeah, what do you think?
Oh, he seems like a douchebag.
Oh, my God, he's
all
the worst.
Seem like douchebags. I like that Jonathan doesn't call him Dad. Mm-hmm. That he's Lonnie.
Yeah.
I like that his girlfriend is like, ooh, he's cute. Maybe I'll trade you in for the younger model. I was like, That's disgusting, lady.
Yeah, his girlfriend just has a whole sleazy vibe.
Oh,
going
she's
on.
fun. And him trying to make it out like he's actually the good parent and his ex is the crazy one. And I'm like, well, she might be crazy, but she's there.
Yep.
You're gone.
That moment of, oh, good, so one's missing and the other runs wild, that's real stand-up parenting. Mm. I wanted to deck him in the fucking face.
Yeah.
I actually had that happen in a conversation recently with a deadbeat dad who was never there, saying something about how another dad didn't keep a close enough eye on their kid, and I almost, like, lost my lunch. Yeah, it was just really ugly.
Yeah.
So...
yeah, that was pretty awful. But I also like that when Hopper finds out that, what does his name end up being? Not Butch.
Oh, Benny.
That he's dead, and he interviews the guy who was there that night, mm-hmm. and he shows him the picture of Will. The guy goes, "Oh no, that's Lonnie's kid." You know, these people all know this guy.
Yeah.
He's still friends with these people, so he's still integrated into this society somehow. He's just sort of made a break for it. But I like that, sometimes in those sort of situations, it's like he's just so remote that he's not still tied into things. Like, no, they all think he's awesome.
Right,
That's their friend Lonnie. And I'm like, ugh, but he's an asshole.
Yep.
But I also liked in that same thing when Hopper saw that Benny was dead, he was really upset about it because he said, this is my friend. You know, when I worked in the city, I saw stuff like this all the time, but I didn't know those people. Mm-hmm. This is my friend. And I like that. The idea that, this is a small enough town that it's not just like, oh, they kind of know each other. They're friends with each other.
Yeah.
So all this insanity happening is going to be that much more immediately painful as opposed to sort of remote.
His acting in that moment is just really good.
He just seems really just stopped in his tracks by it. He does a lot of really good work in this episode in general.
Yeah.
I like this episode.
Yeah, this actor, I don't know what it is, but he has just got this energy to him that feels so grounded and like comforting. I just really like him on screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I like him. And isn't there a scene where he's with his girlfriend and he can't sleep? And she's trying to calm him down and he just can't.
Yeah.
I like that he, Joyce sees him as sort of blowing things off, but he's obviously more emotionally invested in it than he's willing to show to people.
Yeah. Yep.
And I like that. That says a lot about his character too, that like he's trying to be the gruff sheriff guy, but part of him's kind of a softie.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when it comes to kids, because obviously that's
certainly plays into it as a whole other thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I discussed with Rashawn I don't even know if it was on air or not, but we were talking about how sometimes it can be really hard because when you care about things, you put so much energy into caring about them that you have to start being really careful about what you care about. Mm-hmm. And you have to almost purposefully cut yourself off, because if you let yourself really experience everything that's happening, it becomes too draining. Mm-hmm. And so that's part of what I feel like is the deal with him, is that like you see him get much more invested in this as things start to really coalesce into this isn't just some lost kid. Something happened.
Right.
And it's like he was reserving his energy and his investment until that really became like a solid fact that there was something else going on here.
Right.
And the discovery of Benny, like when they say, so what, suicide? And he says, yup. But he's looking at the body when he says it, like, that's just not right. But it's like it clearly is, because he doesn't want to be like, somebody made it look like a suit, because that sounds crazy.
Right.
So, yeah, this whole scene, I think, is just really well done. Agreed.
Yeah. I also think it's interesting that the witness thought that 11 was a boy.
Yeah, yeah.
So now they're looking, they have no idea that there's some random shaved head girl running around.
Right.
because I thought she was a boy at first too. Obviously, I think she was supposed to. Everybody did, and the D&D boys know that she's a girl, though.
Oh my god!
Very clearly.
Oh my god! 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 Oh my god!
Oh my god! That was so funny. So funny when Mike's like, nope, no. It's like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my, and then keeps like doing the mimicry of her just pulling her shirt over her head, this like panic look on his face, like she almost
knocks his hat right off his own head.
Oh my god, so funny.
That kid is perfect.
That kid is really good in this role. He really, really is.
And Mike offers her some privacy, but she gets real, squitchy about him closing the door.
Yep.
And later on, he has to ask her to hide in the closet with the door closed, and she does, but we see what was going on.
Oh.
It's really awful, isn't it?
Yes. Really, really awful.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, she's yelling Papa, pulling her down the hallway, and you see Matthew Modine at the end of the hallway. And are we supposed to assume that he is actually her father? Or I couldn't tell whether she was yelling at him or just sort of yelling
I don't know.
Like pleading in general. I know you can't tell me. I'm just putting it out there as a question that I wondered about, and I assume we will find out. So I'm just saying, you don't have to say anything.
I can't. I mean, I don't know.
Oh, sure, fine. So, but yeah, and then they lock her in that room, and it's it's awful. And there's a definite X-Files vibe to all this. I think also, like, whatever the music was playing when they were pulling her down the hallway, that all just seemed very X-Filesy to me. And but I loved him coming back and opening the door, and the look on her face of relief and disbelief that someone
he actually did. Yep.
Oh, I am loving the relationship between the two of them. I love it. Just how, and it doesn't seem like a romantic thing. It's just this immediate connection of him realizing she's been through some shit.
Yep.
And he has to figure out how to take care of her. He just seems so immediately nurturing towards her, but also wanting to comfort her and have her feel like she has a friend for the first time, because he realizes she has no idea what a friend is.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, well, I'm going to show you. This is what a friend is. And I'm like, oh, that's adorable. You are the cutest. I love you. And I'm going to say, he has a Dark Crystal poster on his wall, which is my favorite movie of all time. And I love it. I was like, oh, I love you. You're wonderful. You're the cutest kid. To be a dorky sci-fi kid is one thing, but to be a dorky sci-fi kid with a Dark Crystal poster on, that's next level. Really, really. Because that movie made no money. No one was like, oh, the Dark Crystal's my favorite movie, I'm going to put it on my wall. No, but he's the sort of kid who would love something that weird and offbeat, and I love it about him. He's lovely.
Aw. All right, well, I have a question about that for you, because I have seen some criticism levied at this moment in terms of him. He's, showing her all of his stuff around the house, and she sees a picture of his sister, and he shows her how to use the lazy boy and, all of this stuff.
Which I used to, that moment was great for me, because I remember when we got a lazy boy, I used to do that exact thing. Like, just sit in it and pull that handle for, like, half an hour. And, like, rock back, and I was like, wee, this is the awesomest thing in my whole house. Like, so true. Really, that I've never seen that. I didn't realize other people did that. I just thought I was a total weirdo, because I only had one really older sister, and I didn't live in a neighborhood with, actual neighbors, so I couldn't, go around, and I lived next door to a Rite Aid. So I just had to entertain myself, and I would just sit in the lazy boy, pretend it was like a rocket ship.
Well, so the thing that people have said about this scene is that they felt like he accepts too quickly that she's like got no experience or knowledge of anything.
I've read that too. I don't agree with that. I think it's pretty clear pretty quickly that she is totally baffled by everything.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, like, him showing this stuff around is actually the part that, for me, was the least, because even if you don't think people have no knowledge of anything, a lot of the stuff that he's showing her, you may just not have seen before, right, even as a regular person. Right. Or as somebody who has been in the hospital for a long time. If you're imagining like he's impressed, that's what it is.
Yeah, the fact that he's like, my TV's 22-inch.
Right.
Like, that's not just like she's never seen a TV before. That's because he even compares it to Lucas's TV. It's just him being like, look how awesome a TV we have, mm-hmm, as opposed to television.
Right, yeah.
Like she's a Neanderthal.
But the one thing that I did have a little bit of an issue with is that when she repeats back promise to him, when I was first watching it, it didn't occur to me that she was asking, what does that word mean? Mm-hmm. I thought she was just being like, you promise?
Right.
And he immediately defines the word for her. As opposed to later when she says, what is friend? That, she's asking, she doesn't know what the word is. Right. And that makes more sense. But I did think the fact that he immediately was like, oh, she doesn't know what a promise is, and explains it to her, was a little bit like...
of a weird assumption on his part.
Yeah.
I can see that. I think you can go either way on that. I think, again, she looks so completely confused by so much, and her vocabulary is obviously quite limited, that to him it sort of makes sense that he feels like he needs to be defining some of the things that he says. Mm-hmm. If she goes so far as to repeat them back, mm-hmm, it's like she understands everything else he's saying, but if it's something she needs to repeat back, he's like, okay, we need some clarification on this point. Okay. But I agree. Like it could go either way. So it didn't bug me, but I can see why.
It wasn't really like it bothered me so much as like, oh, she doesn't know what it means, because I didn't take it that way. So when he defines it for her, it just sort of caught me off guard. But then when I had seen other criticism about him in general, seeing that she doesn't know what anything is, I didn't really agree with. I felt like it felt very natural to me in the scene. But I was
and it
curious.
Also sort of felt like, you're going to be in this house all day. You're staying with me. I'm going to show you around. Mm-hmm. I'm going to show you all my cool stuff. I thought that the energy between the two of them was great. I thought they were really, for such young actors, it was very believable and just nice to watch. I was like, oh, this poor girl, she finally has somebody on her side, like, and not in a really pitying way.
Yeah.
Just in a, all right, I'm going to help you out here, mm-hmm, sort of way, which I liked.
Agreed.
As opposed to the other two who are kind of freaking out.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Lucas needs to get it together.
Lucas needs to chill out. Yeah. Lucas is like, get this chick out of here. And I'm like, Lucas, it's okay.
Yeah, he hasn't got much empathy at all. He's just like getting in her face, yelling at her, and it's like, obviously you're freaking her out. Obviously this isn't the method by which you should be getting your information, because all it's doing is causing her to like clam up and freak out. But right. Yeah, he's not really reading the room here.
No. And Dustin's just too like boobs about everything, right, to really have any useful input.
Oh, Dustin.
So it's all kind of on Mike's shoulders. But he's doing a good job.
Yes. Considering
he's surrounded by a space cadet and an asshole. So, and I like, just so much about it is just, they're so young. Like when she shows her tattoo and he's like, whoa, I've never seen a kid with a tattoo before. Mm-hmm. And to him, it's not like, there's no like Nazi imagery associated with that, which I think is what most people watching this would be like, oh shit.
Yeah, right.
You're not supposed to have numbers tattooed on you, bad people do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's bad. For him, he's like, oh, cool, a tattoo.
Yeah.
Like, Mike, that means bad things.
Right.
That means real bad things.
So yeah, it's her. She is number 11, so he decides to call her L for short.
Yeah.
Which is adorable.
Which is adorable. And like when he's calling her L, when the other boys come back and they just look at him like, what?
Right.
Like they can tell, like, oh God, he thinks she's like a puppy and he can keep her. Like, we need to get her out of here, and he's bonding with her. This is bad.
Yep.
And again, like you said, not showing a whole lot of empathy, because their main concern is we're going to get in trouble.
Yep.
And whereas Mike is like, I'm going to have you go outside and come back in, and then my mom will call somebody and everything will be fine. She just goes, no.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. And then she does the gun movement.
Yeah.
And it's not just that she puts the gun to her head, it's that she puts the finger gun to his head.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that's part of what's panicking her even more than anything, that she's just seen
somebody get shot on her behalf.
Yeah, the last person who showed her any kindness was shot in front of her.
Yeah.
And she's like, this is going to keep happening. It's my fault. You know, you're able to put yourself in her head, even though her head is obviously real fucked up.
Mm.
You can see, you know, she's still just such a sad little girl who is so sad about the destruction she's leaving in her wake. Like, she's so freaked out too about her powers, it seems like, to me at least, that she clearly doesn't have a ton of control over it. And, you know, it ties into the thing about, you know, the first episode has the reference to that X-Men issue that, Owen looked up, and it's the Phoenix episode. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Jean Grey, her power is telekinesis. Mm-hmm. And so this girl, obviously there's a thematic connection between her showing up at that time that they're thinking about, or the Phoenix, that Jean Grey is sort of a cultural reference for them, to have a little girl show up with powers of telekinesis. Just seems like thematically they did that on purpose. Yeah, telekinesis is weird.
Yeah, so let's talk about that moment, because Lucas is about to go get Mike's mom. Uh-huh. And is just brooking no goddamn argument about it, doesn't want to hear it, and is like opening the door to leave, and the door slams. And initially, he just seems like, what the fuck? And tries to open the door again, and then the door slams again, and he then looks pretty freaked out, but then the lock turns in the door. And and they all turn and look at her, and she's got a little bit of blood coming out of her nose. And she just says no again. And this reveal, like, did you expect her to let them know that she had powers? Because with Benny, she makes the fan stop while he's out of the room. You know, like, she doesn't do anything for him to be aware of. Right.
I think there may be sort of... I think there's two parts to it. First of all, she has to. You know, she doesn't really have a lot of options to keep them from going. If she has to show them what she's able to do to keep herself and them safe, she kind of has to. And second of all, you know, maybe Mike has given her enough confidence and trust in him as a friend now to be like, we're in this now. Mm-hmm. You should know, I got this going on. So just so you're aware, yeah, I can do this.
So this brings on the, you know, questions about what her reaction was to the picture of Will earlier.
Yeah.
And they are like, well, if you know where he is, tell us.
Oh.
And there's this interesting moment with the D&D board.
Yeah. Which I really liked. It freaked me out.
It is really well done, right?
Yeah, really well done.
I was like, it's a combination of the child actors being really good, the soundtrack being fucking amazing for this whole show, because they have that just kind of very small, like, pulsing synthesizer undertone.
It's very John Carpenter-y.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the sort of the weirdness of her explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Because she takes the board, she flips it over, she puts Will's piece in the middle because she figures out which is his piece. She can tell by, like, meditating over them.
Yeah.
And they're asking if he's hiding, or where he is. She says he's hiding. They say from the bad people, and she shakes her head.
And then she brings out that crazy monster that he was running from in the they were trying to get away from in the first episode in the game.
Yep.
Which I liked. And the cinematography on it is good, and the sound mixing on it is good. Like, it's all really well done. You know, the focus on the black underside of the board is just framed really well on the screen. It's just like blackness. He is in the darkness. He is on the flip side in the dark. And I was, yeah. And then this, you know, the sound when she puts it down, like, you can hear the slamming of the figure on the table, but also the soundtrack going like wah in that moment, but not in a really super obnoxious way. But it really does mix together well.
It affected me a lot the first time I saw it, but there are times where it doesn't really work the second time around when you watch something. It still did.
Oh, good.
And Owen goes, "Oh shit," and he, like, really seemed shook, and I was like, "Really good, right?" And he was like, "Yeah, that freaked me out." And it's like it's a kid putting a stupid D&D piece on a board. Like, that shouldn't be scary, and yet it is. Just so good. I love this show so much.
Now, is that before or after the crazy stuff starts happening in Winona's house?
That is before.
Okay, so I think it's the very next scene is her when they call on the phone again, and then she sees the thing moving in the wall, so the stereo goes off again, and the lights start going on. Like, it's just, you know, super poltergeisty.
Yeah. Yeah, she gets a phone call again. The phone blows out again. Which is $22 down the drain. So that sucks.
Right. I'm thinking that too. She's like, how many phones am I going to have to buy? I have no money. Stop calling.
What did you expect to happen here? Like,
I did not expect the wall to start moving.
Yeah.
That I did not expect. Like, the stereo going off and the lights going off, that all seemed still sort of connected to, there's obviously some connection to electricity with the Department of Energy, and this crackly noise that comes along with sort of the monster-y noise, and the telekinesis involving, you know, blowing out light bulbs and turning off fans and whatever. Although it doesn't really go along with slamming the door, so apparently it's, you know, her powers aren't all electrical.
Right.
But that sort of, it was freaky enough. Like, I could understand why she was freaked out, but as a viewer, I wasn't super freaked out. I was like, yeah, this is sort of your basic level scary shit. Like, they turn on the stereo and it's a song he likes, and it's a song with a sort of thematic resonance. The should I stay or should I go? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe you should go. I don't know if staying's really doing anybody any good, man. But then the thing moving in the wall, I was like, well, that's different.
Yeah.
I did not, because it wasn't the same sort of like slime. It was like the wall itself was moving. And I was, you know, her screaming and running out. Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I would do. But then her turning around and going back in. And that we don't see what happens when she goes back in. Also, I'm like, so when she goes back in, is the wall still going to be moving?
I
don't know. Joyce, I don't know if that's a great idea. Like, because you're, you know, from a horror movie viewer standpoint, I'm like, you're really not supposed to go back in. Don't go upstairs. Don't go downstairs.
Though, I loved that she went back in.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, a lot of times, like you said, it's people doing stupid stuff in horror movies, and I'm just like, oh, this fucking whole movie wouldn't happen if people weren't just dumb.
Stupid, yeah.
But yeah,
this is, like logically, yeah, keep running. But emotionally, she's like, I can't run from this. This is my kid. I know instinctively that this is tied to my kid's disappearance. It's my kid trying to contact me. I have to go face it. And I'm like,
Yeah, it's like the expression that she gets on her face as she's sitting, she runs to her car. She's doing what, if there wasn't a disappearance ahead of this happening, would be the very logical thing to do, which is fucking run.
Yeah.
Which is what frustrates me, I think, a lot about horror movies, is that there isn't usually enough motivation for the family to stay where they are, or the people to, like if there's things happening, it's like, find somewhere to go anywhere.
Yeah, get out.
Right. But here, she gets in the car, she's about to leave, and then it's not even that she's like, I have to do this. It's that she looks pissed. She's like, fuck you for trying to run me out of my own goddamn house. This is my fucking son. Something has my fucking son. And it's like she gets angry and she stalks back into that house as if she's about to like give that thing a talking to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Some serious mama bear happening.
Exactly. So yeah, that moment, her acting was just so like transparent, in that you could just feel what this character was thinking all over her face, and I loved it so much.
I really like that they gave her more to do, more notes to play in this episode. They really did, because she deserves that.
Yeah.
Because Winona's a good actress. She always has been, and it's a shame that she hasn't gotten a lot of work. That whole shoplifting thing really
killed her,
knocked
didn't
her
it?
out for a while. And at the time when that happened, I remember being like, well, that's crazy. Like, you've got money, buy your own shit. And, as an older adult, I'm like, oh, she has stuff going on.
Yep.
She's got issues that she needs to deal with. And I felt a lot of sadness for her, because she's a child actor. She started acting when she was like 11 or 12 in Lucas, I think. That was her first movie. And child actors are always real fucked in the head. Not always. Every now and then you'll get one that ends up relatively well adjusted, but
like looking back as an adult now, it bothers me that something like that unmade her career, when other people can assault and rape and be fine.
Oh my god, yeah. It was such a tiny thing. And she showed a fair amount of entitlement in the trial, I'm not gonna lie. Like, she was really shocked when she got convicted, and it turned me off her a little bit, that she was like, huh? What? I have to face repercussions for something I did, but do you know who I am? Like, there's a little bit of that in her face, but she was still so young. And
she probably had lawyers assuring her up and down
that
this
it
would never
fine.
happen. Yeah.
But, this is a woman who needed help.
Yeah.
And hopefully she got it in the time that she was out. But I'm glad she's found some people who are helping her sort of slowly work her way back in, because she really didn't work at all.
Yeah.
For a long time.
And I loved her, so I remember distinctly missing her.
Yeah,
like,
I did too.
It was just, she was one of those actresses that felt like an actual person you knew.
And there was all that stuff that was going on. Do you remember when she and Gwyneth were like best friends and they were dating Ben Affleck and Matt Damon at the same time?
Oh, I forgot all about that.
No, I totally did too, until somebody reminded me recently. And what the story is that somebody had given Winona the script for Shakespeare in Love, and Gwyneth found it and stole it and went to Harvey Weinstein and slept with him and got the role. Yep. These are Hollywood rumor stories or whatever, but that's apparently why their friendship crashed and burned, and that's why Gwyneth's career took off and hers stagnated, and she, this whole shoplifting thing happened, and just everything went to shit for her all at once, and she didn't get to be fucking Matt Damon anymore.
Oh, that's so sad. I wonder if that's true. I hope it's not true. It sounds terrible.
It seems like a lot of things went wrong for Winona right when a lot of things were going really right, and then they
just suddenly, yeah.
It bums me out. And so when she was in, what was it, Black Swan?
Yes, I haven't seen Black Swan. I want to see it.
Yeah, she was in it. She didn't have a big role, but when she was in it, I just was so happy she was there. I was like, yay! She's back and she's crazy. For good reason in the movie.
And she was also in Star Trek as Spock's mom.
As Spock's mom, right?
Which I had forgotten about until I looked up because I was like, what else has she done lately? And that was listed and I was like, wait, Star Trek? And then...
You remember?
Yeah.
But there was a big gap. Really, do anything. The only other big actress I can think of that had that same thing happen is Meg Ryan. The same, and it sort of happened around the same time too with Meg Ryan. But Meg Ryan, that was because she had terrible plastic surgery.
Yeah,
and the same thing with Renee Zellweger. They had really bad plastic surgery, and people were like, "Nope, you're old and you look funny, and we're not going to hire you anymore." And they were both huge.
Yeah,
but Winona was totally different because she still looks gorgeous.
Oh, yeah, she looks amazing. She's aging really, really well.
Yeah. I mean, she's aging, which I appreciate that she's letting herself age. That's rare, too. And she had plastic surgery early in her career. She had a nose job, but they all have nose jobs.
Yeah.
Like, they literally all have nose jobs.
Yeah, that's something that I've noticed a lot is when they show pictures of people as kids, the nose is almost always different. Almost every time. And it's a subtle thing, but it's surprising how big a difference it makes in their appearance when it's fixed. Like, if it's just off a tiny bit. It
cracks me up when you'll hear people be like, Britney Spears didn't have a nose job. I'm like, Britney Spears totally had at least one, if not two, nose jobs. They all have nose jobs. Yep. And a lot of them have really good nose jobs.
Yep.
So you don't really notice. Angelina Jolie had a nose job, obviously. But, they're subtle enough and they're good enough that it doesn't totally fuck up their faces. Personally, I can't imagine having surgery done on my face. It freaks me out.
Yeah, it's pretty freaky.
There was a show on MTV for a while where people were having plastic surgery. I think it was mostly to try and look like celebrities. Do you remember that show? And I remember just totally freaking me out, the idea of taking bandages off your face and not being able to see the same face that you've seen your whole life, even if it's small. It really weirds me out. I would do something like Botox, something tiny like that, but anything even lip fillers, anything that's going to make your face shape or any of your actual body parts look different really messes with my head. It just psychologically it would freak me out.
I'm not gonna lie, if I had the opportunity, I would probably get my lips done because I just really love wearing bright lipstick and my lips are small and it's really just not the same.
Your lips aren't small, you have lovely lips.
My lips are small though, they are.
Well then you do real good makeup on them because they look small.
I outline them on the outside, which is what you're apparently supposed to do if you're trying to really, but it's not, it just feels weird to have them lined that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Kylie Jenner gets made fun of a lot for her lips, and I'm like, I think they look awesome though. So I would probably.
I think it's so weird because she looks so different from how she used to. That's the only thing.
She has obviously had other things done.
Yeah, right. And it also makes her look so much like her sister that's also creepy.
Right.
But what if they have the same plastic surgeon? Or the same, I guess it's plastic surgeons who do the Restylane and the fillers and stuff like that. No, I would have Botox on my forehead because I know it's supposed to also help with headaches, and I have horrible headaches.
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Ooh. Oh, yeah.
That's a nice little perk.
Yeah. I mean, you have to do it a certain way. The way that they do it for headaches is different from how they do it just for wrinkles. So it doesn't necessarily always help with wrinkles if they do it for your headaches, but I don't have that many forehead wrinkles. I'm just saying. And I have bangs anyway, so it doesn't really matter. They could fuck up the Botox and it would wear off soon anyway. Nobody would notice. Anyway,
tangents. Jobs. So many tangents this episode. Sorry, guys.
Sorry. But Winona Ryder looks great, and I'm glad she's letting herself age and that she's getting work because she's good. She's always been good.
And yeah, she has. She has always been good. And so, she gets out of the car and stalks back into the house, and that's the last moment that we see of her. But it goes from there to her son, who earlier we saw him putting up posters for his brother at the school.
The school, right.
And Nancy's douchebag new crew of friends are
they're awful.
suggesting that he killed his own brother.
They're worse than her boyfriend. Her boyfriend's friends are way worse than him. They're terrible.
Yep.
Just no redeeming characteristics at all. Just awful.
Yeah, just really spiteful in that, like, bored way. That's the kind of spiteful that always makes me the most infuriated, is this vibe of, I just don't have anything better to do than make you miserable.
Ugh, yeah, it's
awful.
They're awful. And what stuck out to me was that he went there and he put the poster in the school and then he left. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, he doesn't go to school. Mm-hmm. He's dropped out of school.
Yeah.
He had to drop out of school to help support his family.
Yep.
Like that light bulb went off. It hadn't even occurred to me. I was like, yeah, he goes to school and then he has a part-time job, because that's what I did. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh no.
Yeah, no.
He's done. And he has to leave now.
I like that detail a lot too, because in the 70s and 80s, dropping out of school was just easier than it is now.
It happened a lot more, I think.
Yeah.
It was a lot easier to get a job without a high school degree.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, true.
So it wasn't as huge a thing. Like now, if you drop out of high school, it's like, well, you're fucked. Yep. Enjoy selling drugs. Yep. I mean, seriously. Maybe I've just watched too much of The Wire, but... that's what happens. You don't have a lot of options.
Yeah. Oh. So yeah, he leaves, and then we see him, like, he has this sort of connection with Nancy when she comes and says hi and that she's sorry, and he obviously, like, is vibing on her a little bit.
Right.
And then later he's taking photos in the woods, trying to figure out anything that can help find his brother, and he hears a scream. And it turns out that it's Twatface and her dumb boyfriend at the pool.
Right.
And so he, like, is sitting in the woods taking photos of all of them.
Right.
And it's just a real creepy thing. Yeah. It's like, I get that you didn't intend this. You got drawn over there by this scream. But maybe just go now.
Yeah, maybe move along. Because the photos very quickly become focused on one person.
Right. So yeah, he has Nancy in the window, and when she's getting changed, and it's just, it's no good. But then he sees, I'm
thinking to myself, like, when they, this is back when you had to take film to get developed. This isn't just like he can go home and plug these into his computer and have them for his spank bank. Like, he has to actually take these to a photomat and be like, pay no attention to these creepy voyeuristic photos I took of a person that you're obviously going to know because we're in this small town. Maybe. Like, what do you say? Because that's what happened. Like, people who developed your photos for you in the 80s and 90s, they looked at your photos. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember very clearly one time I took some pictures to get developed when I was in high school, and there were some things on that roll of photographs that were debaucherous, I would say, to one degree or another. I got some looks from these 20-something guys who were handing me the pictures, like, I saw things.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, thank you. I will take those. I feel real awkward right now. They weren't that bad, but they were bad enough that,
Right.
They'd clearly looked at these pictures. And I was like, hi.
I worked at a photo developing place, actually, when I was a teenager. And I remember, the code of conduct, like, that you weren't supposed to indicate to anybody that you knew what was in the bag. Mm-hmm. And, if you did see anything that was actually, like, dangerous or upsetting, like, if there was kitty
illegal
porn or something.
Yeah. Right.
But the one thing that it did not prepare me for was seeing pictures of childbirth. Because that happened a bunch of times.
Yeah,
and it is
not
pretty, guys.
No,
childbirth is hideous. So it was an abrupt thing, because it would start off with pictures of just people, like, together, smiling, like, looking, the woman's sweating a lot. That's basically all and then all of a sudden it's like, blood! Yeah. Oh, God, it was horrible.
There's like shit on the table, and then there's things coming out of places. Yeah.
It's like, what is that blue? Oh my God. Yeah.
No, I mean, like, I had a doula for my second kid, and one of the things was that they would take pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, pictures of the top parts, no pictures of the bottom parts. I don't need that. And like, you know, you'll get people who hire videographers, and I'm like, no.
I just can't see wanting to watch that after the fact.
I have no desire to watch it. I was there. I remember what it felt like. I don't need to know what it looked like.
Right.
I can imagine. Plus, my son was born really quickly, so there wasn't much of a chance to get a lot of real action shots. So it was all just sort of after the fact. I had him 5 minutes after I got to the hospital.
Nice.
Yeah, my second childbirth was very different from my first. He came shooting right out. And I almost had him on the steps of my apartment building, actually. We had to drive really fast. And, yeah, no desire to see that. But, yeah, it's a totally different concept. Like, now people can just take, like, naked pictures of themselves and then just have them and send them to people, you know, or have, you know, whatever, pictures of all sorts of stuff. And no one else will ever see them. They just are there.
Yeah.
They do not need to be shared. And although I will say I used to work at an Apple store, and sometimes people had to have things transferred from one computer to another in the Genius Room.
Right.
Yeah, you'd sometimes see things. Like, they flash by really fast, and you're not supposed to watch, but every now and then something will catch your eye, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, I feel the same way about childbirth video as I do about, like, sex tapes. Like, for me, if you're super hot and your partner's super hot and you want to, like, I mean, even if you're not and you want to do it, fine. But I'm saying from my perspective, I don't want to see what my sex looks like. Because I have no doubt that it is not appealing. I really doubt that it is at all. And it's just one of those things that, like, I can understand people wanting to do that if they themselves are hot, because I remember being hot and liking how I looked in lingerie and stuff a lot more.
Right.
And I would probably
have a certain level of exhibitionism in their personality to start with. Yeah.
But the whole idea behind it is to either let somebody else see it or play it back and watch it yourself.
For yourself, yeah.
And neither of those things at all sounds appealing in any way to me. So, yeah.
Not really, no. I would agree with that. Let's just have the experience.
Right, exactly.
Move on. But yeah, this kid is going to get some funny looks at the photomat, is all I'm saying. Unless he's got a dark room hidden in that crappy house of theirs somewhere, which I suppose is possible since he's got this nice camera. This is clearly his hobby. Hopefully it's not his hobby to take pictures of people through bedroom windows. Mm-hmm. That might just be a one-time deal, but you never know. And then he ends up taking a picture of Barb.
Yeah. So Barb is sitting out there all sad by her.
Oh, she's so sad in her little parka.
Yep. And he like looks down to wind the reel, and then looks up again, and she's gone. And there's like a little shriek, but it's small enough that he's just kind of like looks puzzled.
Right.
But he doesn't really seem to think anything happened. He's just like, oh, that's weird. She's gone. Oh, right. Okay. Right. And just moves on.
Right.
So yeah.
Because there's enough of a cover from the trees too that she could have just walked away in that time that he looked down pretty easily, just out of his frame of reference.
Right.
His field of view, I suppose. Yeah. Bye, Barb.
Right.
It was nice knowing you. Your glasses were terrible.
Her glasses were terrible. That's true.
You deserved better on many levels.
Oh, and there's one other scene that we haven't mentioned, which is Hopper, the police chief, at the quarry.
Yeah.
And he's standing on the edge of this like cliffside with the deputy, who's just the dumbest.
Yeah.
He's such a doofus.
He's a doofus.
And the guy's like, oh, so-and-so jumped off here drunk on a bet. And he's like, yeah, he's full of shit. That never happened because this will kill you.
This will kill you.
And he's like, no, I think you could do it. And he's just like, oh, whatever. But this is part of their search, is that they're going down to this quarry because apparently this is like something that isn't unheard of, is people falling down in here.
I gotta say that really feels like Chekhov's cliff to me. Like there's a quarry on the wall in the first act.
Yep.
Somebody's gonna fall into that quarry in the third act. That's all I'm saying. I don't know how or why, but it's pretty ominous. I'm like, why are you gonna show a cliff? Be like, that would kill you.
Yeah.
Okay, bye. I'm like, all right, well, that's gonna kill someone now. They're setting that up pretty clearly. I don't know how or why, but yeah, we'll see. That's my guess. Someone's gonna fall in there.
I'm excited.
I know. You can't tell me.
I can't tell you, but I am excited to see because it's just interesting.
Yeah.
And oh, we kind of hit on this, but didn't really talk about it too much. Is the discussion of the kid that was at Benny's place because he's questioning people about it.
Right.
And the fact that there's this kid involved now, it's really gotten his attention.
Right.
So, yeah, that's adding another element to this, is that there's this boy and, you know, he's saying, well, you know, forget the haircut. If his head were shaved, could it have been him? And the guy's like, well, maybe, but you can see that it doesn't really, and Hopper's going to go with it because it's the most likely thing.
Right. So now it's going to kind of lead him off on this track that does sort of lead away from Will, but maybe kind of leads to Will, but will lead towards Elle. So now it's like he's looking for Elle more than he's even looking for Will, because he's not going to be able to find Will.
Yeah.
But he could find Elle.
Yep.
So that's my other theory. He's going to find Elle.
He's going to find Elle. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Or Elle.
I know, right? Oh, that scene is rough.
Yeah. That's real rough.
And I like also in the show that they do flashbacks without the like sepia tone, oh, this is the past.
Right. They just kind of go to it.
I don't have a problem with that sepia thing because that's how memories are for a lot of us. They just have a different color to them when we think back. Right. But it doesn't have this stylized thing. It's just, this is what happened, which I like, actually.
Right.
And so, yeah, we see her getting thrown in there. We see the moment that Jonathan introduces Will to all of this music, and he is turning up the radio to drown out the sound of his parents fighting.
Yeah.
And he's telling his brother, because his brother's like, you know, he didn't even come to the baseball game or bring me, and he's like, well, do you even like baseball? And Will's like, well, that's not really the point. And he's like, no, it should be the point. Like, does he ever bring you to something that you care about?
Right. I like that too.
Yeah. It was a really honest conversation with no bullshit in it.
And it was obviously like an older brother who had been through this exact same thing. Who was like, my father does not care about me as a person, is not interested in finding out about what I'm interested in, looks at it like it's weird.
Yep.
And now I've got a weird little brother too, who likes weird things, and our dad's going to do the exact same thing to him and not give a shit and just want to turn him into who he wants him to be. Which is something that unfortunately a lot of parents do.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it also because it reminded me of like being an older woman now who's talking to younger women frequently who are going through dating. And when you are older and have met a bunch of dickheads or gone through a bunch of drama, you start to be able to recognize what's happening much more quickly. And you're trying to tell this person, oh my God, all of the hopes that you're holding on to for how this is going to go or what's really happening are not based in anything real.
Right.
But there's a feeling to Will that like those young girls have where it's like, well, maybe that's how it was for you, but it's not that way for me necessarily, you know?
Sorry, it's another parenting thing. Like, I remember my mom you try and tell your kids life lessons and they just don't listen. And now that I'm going through it as an adult, and I'm like, oh my God, my kids don't listen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know things that are important and valuable, and you just can't hear them.
No, you can't. It's like you literally can't. It's like you just turn off your ears.
It's just, it's Charlie Brown's teacher saying,
Yep.
wah, 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 wah. Like, I remember my mom just being like, if they don't like you for who you are, then you don't want to be friends with those people. And I was like, yeah. And now I'm saying it to my kids, and I'm like, they're not hearing it.
No.
Like, you don't want to be friends with this girl. She's mean and she doesn't like you and she wants you to be something else, and you're going to try and be something else so that you'll be friends with this girl who's never really going to like you. Stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Just stop it. It's not going to be fun for you. There are people out there who will like you for you. Find those people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't listen. They can't hear it.
No.
And it's so sad to hear this kid feeling that in a relationship with his father.
Yeah.
Like, I need to change who I am to be accepted by my parent. That's depressing.
It's really depressing, and it's really great to see it presented so honestly.
Yeah.
Because there is this sort of thing that can happen in media where they have, like, a parent who's, like, underneath all of their bullshit and their fuck-ups are really actually a good parent who cares. But I don't feel like they're doing that here. It really is that, no, he is acting like he cares when it's convenient, but the actual evidence points to the opposite.
Yeah.
Which is just, I feel like that happens in life a lot more frequently than a lot of movies and TV really want to admit it happens.
Right.
Because it's a really sad and inexplicable thing to a lot of people. Like, how could you be a parent and not care? How can that be how you exist? Like, it just doesn't make sense to a lot of folks. Me, I don't have kids, so I don't know how that works, but it's something that I hear that once you have children, things
become
just change.
Really inexplicable. Yeah.
Yeah.
It should change. Things should change.
Right.
They did for me, because you're supposed to put your kids first now.
Yep.
And not all parents do.
Yep.
And that's so weird to me. Like, it's just so instinctual. Like, it's not even like society tells me I need to put my kids first. Like, you have kids, and to me it was just like, all right, they're the important thing now. Mm-hmm. My job is to take care of them and make sure that they're safe and that they grow up into responsible, wonderful adults. That's my job. Yep. That's what I do now, forever.
Yep.
And that's the thing, like, when they hand your baby to you and you've just gone through this whole, like, crazy physical experience, not just the labor, but, like, the 9 months before it. And you're like, wait, I don't get a nap? And they're like, nope, you're a parent now forever. Have fun. Bye. It's like, shit. Oh my God, I made a terrible decision. This is terrifying. But that's what parenting is supposed to be. It's this, like, and go.
Right. Yeah.
Sit now.
No thanks.
Yeah, I know. For a lot of people, that sounds terrifying. With good reason. It's a ridiculous thing, but that's my job now, is I'm a mom.
Yep.
And I have to take care of them, and it's the most important thing to me. And it's not for some parents. And to me, that's so weird. I don't know how that can be the case.
Yeah.
Because literally, it's just not even something I think about. It's a thing that happened.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah. I think that's what it is that it's hard to understand the mindset that a person must have for that to not happen for them.
Right. Because
to not switch over. Yeah.
For like 95% of people, or maybe even more, that's just it. That's how it works.
Yep.
You see this baby and you're like, yep, that's it. But for this small percentage of people, it's not, and it's so bizarre. It's just so inexplicable, like you said. That's the only word. Is it just what?
Right. Yeah.
How can you not care about your kid? And it's something that I see so much, on a grander level, and something you see a lot more talked about more now is trans kids.
Oh, God.
And it just makes me, or I've been interested in the concept of intersex kids for years, because it's more common than you'd think, people who are born intersex, and that they just have, their parents are told that they need to have surgery right away. like as babies, as small children, to be one or the other.
Yeah.
And these kids grow up and become just so confused as teenagers because their parents don't tell them what's going on. There are so many family situations that are really stressful, and I understand why parents freak out if your kid comes to you and says, no, I'm actually a boy, when you thought you were raising a girl. Right. I understand your immediate reaction to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's crazy. No. But then your reaction after that should be, well, I love my child, and I want my child to be happy, and I want to accept my child as who they are, not who I want them to be. Like, my kids are both autistic, and they may not be the kids that I pictured having, but I'm not going to force them to be something else. They are really interesting individuals that their brains aren't quite the same as other kids' brains. And I like that about them.
I think it has to do with this concept of people owning their children.
Yeah.
And that kids don't have kids are not an independent entity until they reach adulthood, which really doesn't make a lot of sense. But
you have so much ego wrapped up in your kids that you need to let go, and you need to really actively let go of, like, this is a product of myself, and so they should have a lot in common with me, or they should aspire to the same things that I aspire to, or that I want them to aspire to. It's not up to us.
Yeah.
Your kids you get the kid you get. You don't get, it's not like parents will go into parenthood being like, well, I'm going to parent in this style. I'm going to be an attachment parent or whatever. And sometimes you get an attachment parenting kind of kid and it works out perfectly. Sometimes you don't. You get a kid who doesn't want to be swaddled, who doesn't want to be carried around in a carrier all the time, who doesn't want to do these things that books tell you should do. You have to follow your kid's lead. You get the kid you get, and you should accept the kid you have. And it's so bizarre to me when I see parents who can't do that. And that's what it is in this situation. It's a dad who's like, no, I'm not letting go of the ego part of this at all.
That's a part of why I don't want to be a parent too, is because if I were going to have a child, I have a very distinctive idea of what that would look like. And I know that that's like, got a 1% chance of happening. So, yeah.
You gotta let it go. It's hard. For me, it was easier in my case once I had somebody say to me, like, clinically, your kid is not necessarily going to look like the average kid. And having, like, a diagnosis of that made it easier for me to be like, all right, I got to let it go, because that's what it's going to be. Whereas I think maybe for the average parent, it's a little bit harder, because you're like, there's still a chance that they could just do everything I want them to do and turn out to be this, picture perfect idea that I had of my kid when I was imagining having kids. And I'm like, it's still not true.
Yeah.
It's never going to happen. You can't picture something and have it come true. I feel that about everything in life. If you have, like, a fantasy picture of what something is going to look like, you have just guaranteed that it's not going to look like that.
I have that problem.
Right?
Like, in life, in general, about everything. Yeah. I get an idea of how things are going to be, and I get fixated, and it's a conscious thing. I know I do it. I try not to, but I have actually, as an adult, decided, like, you know what? I can't help the fact that I just have this picture in my head, so I just have to reconcile myself for being disappointed.
Yep, exactly.
That's what I have decided, is that I'm not going to fight the picture. I'm going to just accept that ahead of time that I'm probably going to wind up disappointed.
I just get bummed out because something will pop into my head that's like a happy idea, and I'll be like, well, fuck. No, that's not going to happen. I've just ruled that out entirely.
Right.
Good job, Maggie's brain.
Yep. I hear that.
But on that note, I think we've talked about everything in the episode, haven't we?
I think we have, yes. We had a lot of tangents this time around. Hopefully everybody stuck with us.
Sorry. They're generally relatively interesting tangents.
I think so.
But that are relevant to a degree.
Guys, if you hate our tangents, don't let us know.
Because we're going to keep doing it.
Just don't say anything.
Right.
Keep that shit to yourself. But yeah, I wanted to say thank you.
Oh my God, thank you.
Thank you to everybody who donated to the GoFundMe because we got funded last night. I want to say thanks to everybody who contributed, so I'm gonna. So, we have Liz Adams, Megan Peterson, Stephen McNeil, Christina Faulkner, Suzanne Morris, Maggie Kitterman. Is that your mom?
Yeah.
Nice!
Suzanne Morris, that's my mom.
Thanks, Maggie's mom. Susan Smith, whose idea this was originally. Kiana Means, Catherine Hudson. What's up, Catherine? Nancy Smith, William Barnes, Alex Gallup, Eric Atherley, Jamie Smith, Jesse Carter. What's up, Jamie? And then lastly, the person who just brought us over the top, Daniel Rowland. Holy shit, Daniel. Donated $400 and doesn't even watch Stranger Things, doesn't even know what it is. Just messaged me and was just like, yo, I have some money for you. Where do you want it? Because I could just like send it to you or I could put it in your GoFundMe. And I was like, oh, no, put it in the GoFundMe because I really want to reach gold for that because I want to do the show. Which, you know, technically I would have wound up with all the money for me if he had just given it to me. So maybe I should have done that. But I didn't because I'm a good person.
You are a good person.
Kind of. Occasionally. And yeah, so Daniel brought us from 2:15 to 6:15, got us to goal, and we are going to be able to do the entire series. So yeah, thank you to everybody who contributed and got us up to 2:15. I was really starting to get concerned that it was just not going to happen. And, you know, it wouldn't have if not for maybe one giant donation. I don't know how long I would have let it go to see if it would make it.
Right.
But it's very exciting to have the first time I've done this be completed. So thank you so much, Daniel. And Daniel actually, this is kind of a cool thing. Daniel has donated before and has always been really generous. And he was telling me that this was a result of him doing, he got a big payday from doing the music for a short film called Piper that plays in front of Finding Dory, which is, I think, got a bunch of like little birds in it, which I haven't seen Finding Dory, so I haven't seen this short. But
now you really want to go see the short.
Yeah, now I'm like, I don't care about
awesome.
Finding Dory. I want to see the fucking short ahead of time. That's really awesome. So I just wanted to say thank you to Daniel. Congratulations on working on Piper and your musical career. Because, yeah, he finished it with, like, yay for creative occupations. I was like, amen. So, yeah, I'm really, really excited that we are funded. And like I said, I'm going to be dividing it up. It's going to be a 30-70 between me and Maggie after I pay for the hosting to have this posted on Libsyn. Because we're going to be doing so many episodes so close together, the hosting is going to be more expensive because I'm going to need to buy more memory. So it's going to be probably like $60 off the top. It was $5.60 after the fees from GoFundMe. And then I'm keeping $3.50 and giving Maggie $1.50.
Woo!
So, yeah, that works out really well. I just wanted to be transparent about how the money is divided and how that's going to go.
And I want to say that Natasha has, for a really long time, wanted to be able to compensate her co-hosts. Mm-hmm. Like, you've said it to me a bunch of times. I'm sure you've said it to other co-hosts. And, you know, we do this because it's fun. Mm-hmm. And you're obviously putting in the majority of the work, so it's not a big deal. But since we know that you've wanted to do that for a long time, I'm glad you've finally been able to do it.
Yeah.
And because, I know it's something you emotionally wanted to be able to do for a long time. Financially, it just hasn't worked out. So that's pretty cool. Yeah,
it's really, I feel really like, I'm not sure if we would have gotten all the funding if it hadn't been for Daniel. Like, but I would like to try it again if we do another, like, accelerated format, because I think it's a really cool way of kind of circumventing the usual problems that I have with compensating people, is finding an alternate way of funding the individual series. And yeah, it works out to be about, I think it's like $18 an episode for you and like about $40 an episode for me. Something like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, it works out to be really nice and helpful, and I'm putting that shit straight into an account that I can't even like touch, so that it's for my taxes. Because I otherwise this money would be gone in like a day. I'd be like paying for my computers or buying groceries or something. Yeah, you know, just one of those things that it's like there's always something that you can use it for.
Oh yeah.
So if I just put it out of a place that I can touch it, that's the only way to really solve it for me. I'm not to be trusted at all.
Well, I gotta go. I gotta go get my kid.
Okay, yes.
Those lovely kids of mine.
But thank you everybody so much again for getting us there. Really, really appreciate all of your support and encouragement. I hope you enjoyed this